Hello all, I've got in front of you a Twitter application I put together here over the last week, and this is the storyboard here, and I've got a tab bar controller, navigation controller, table view, and then some just regular views here. I'm just going to kind of go over kind of some of the different challenges I had and overview some of the code, give you a little demonstration of the actual application. And yeah, let's start here. Start with just kind of showing you. You can see at that initial screen that there's a little load preview there, letting you know that the cells were being populated and whatnot. So they are fully populated now, and you can see all your Twitter posts right there. You have a refresh button, which also has a loading notification, and then it automatically dismisses itself. And then we have over here the profile tab that I've created, and you can see the loading method there, message there, and now it doesn't show up because it's stored in memory, so that's nice, makes things a lot smoother, a lot faster. I'm using the segue here to kind of push my data and apply it to this detail view I have, this detail view scene, and I'm using some methods to cut the Twitter API URL and then reappend it with the proper extensions on the end so that we can get the larger size icon also. So you can see that there, and you can see the tweet, the account name of the currently logged in user, and the tweet, and then the tweet and the time of the tweet. We can also go to profile, and we can see some info such as the bio, which I'm not really on Twitter, and as you can see, I don't have any followers. Well, I have 1 and 4 friends, and I don't know how they actually got there, but I didn't add them. Or maybe I did. Anyways, so let's go ahead and make a post. Actually, let's cancel this and go to the top. So you can see the last one there is hello world again. Let's do, this is a post. And this is posting directly to Twitter, so that's really nice. And that one actually posted really quickly here, so, and you can see it's not there, so you will need to refresh that loading message there, and boom, there it is. You can see date and time and whatnot is there. Okay, so let's go over some of the code here. The two first files here, we have cell. Obviously these are connected to my UI table view cell, and the only thing I'm using really for this file is to manage the IB outlets for my cells. So I'm collecting my cell data or applying it this way. So we can see that there's nothing really in this one, the implementation file either. So let's look at my table view controller here, UI table view controller, and we can see I'm importing the accounts frameworks and the social framework. I've also imported my cell and my detail view post header. So there's just some declarations and whatnot here in this header, obviously. And now we get into some of the code. Now, I would have liked to made a little bit more of improvements to this by kind of probably modularizing it a little bit more, separating out some of the code. And I did try to do that, such as this get Twitter timeline. I tried to make that actually an NS object here, unsuccessfully, unfortunately. Just it's been a while, and this is the first Objective-C program I've made in over a month, I think, here now. So yeah, a little rusty, obviously. And so I was discovering different ways of trying to do that. None that were successful at the moment yet. So that is what I would like to do to make this a function that would have been accessible or a method that would have been accessible for other view controllers, so I could just pass in some variables and whatnot. The other complication with that is that, after the data is received and I'm calling the UI table view to reload here. This was the only way to get the table view to reload properly. Really took kind of a lot of time to kind of figure this out, but I had to apply this within the Twitter account timeline method I've declared here, and within after gaining the credentials and requesting for the user account and the user accounts connected to the phone, then after that, getting the proper API information and serializing that with the JSON into an array here. What I've done is I've created a dispatch async method, and then that way I actually am loading that data a lot quicker in the background, and then I also, at the end of it, I'm refreshing my table view, and that was pretty much the best way to have had that process successfully completed. So we can kind of see some of my errors here or my catches and whatnot. I've got some catches if you don't have an account, because that would make the app crash, which I did have happen, and I was like, what's going on? So I created some conditions and whatnot to prevent that crash from happening, and to prompt the user to add an account and whatnot. So we have a bunch of those implemented also. We have here the number of rows in section, table view, the number of rows in section, and the number of sections in the table view. And we have the table view itself, and creating the cell and applying the IB outlets title, date, and icon there from the cell file. And then we have the segue here, passing my data over to the detail view, which is next over here. We have the properties that I am passing. Let's see, I'm passing these properties from and declaring them at the same time, and then I'm creating the IB outlets there to apply them to the scene and get those populated in the view. So you can see that I apply them here. And oh, I almost forgot to show you the getting the larger image also out of the API and how I did that. That was a bit tricky. So you can see I'm applying the images and whatnot and the data, text and whatnot to that detailed view. Let's go ahead and go into here. We should have it. Yes. So this is also my profile view controller, and I've got some stuff in the alert view here to detect whether it needs to display an alert or not, if it's loading. Let's see here. So we've got some. This was a bit tricky. Get user information, get URL. So to gain the right or the larger sized image here in the detail view or the profile view, which is we're in the profile view right here, the URL actually changes, and they don't have a really easy way of getting that besides actually changing the URL itself. Out of the Twitter API, there's not really an easy way of getting it. And so what I've done here is I'm using a few methods. I'm first getting the key. Well, I'm using the value for key in my user info array, getting that, and I am making that into an NS string. And then what's happening here on this line, 93, I'm using the components separate by string, and let's see here. So, okay, there it is. So image URL, this is the full URL, and this URL looks something, has an extension on the end of it, and the extension looks very different than this. It's just some numbers describing the size of the image, and then kind of telling it what size to display. Twitter has a few different ones, but basically there's a few different ones that come out of it. There's one that has normal as the last bit of extension .jpeg. There is the full-size version, which just has .jpeg, and then there's some smaller ones with some numbers, and then it's like icon size or something like that. And so this grabs the image URL, and mine is a underscore normal because it is within the user show API URL, I believe is what it is called. And what I'm doing here is I'm passing that URL into this kind of object here, and then components separated by string. I'm calling this this method, and I'm basically cutting this string at this index here. I'm cutting that, and then it's removing that portion there, and I'm saving it as the cut image URL. And that's kind of the easiest way to explain it. And then what's happening here is, since I've cut the .jpeg also in the process, what I'm doing is I'm just reapplying that by string by append string, and then just passing that in there, and then applying that as a new in a string variable. And then that's being used here for the NSURL, and that's initially string, so we have to convert that to the proper format also, and then also convert it again to an image format using the data with content of URL. So you can see that there's kind of a lot that goes into this simple application as it is, and there is definitely some ways to have improved it by just simplifying more of the code, maybe kind of separating it, segregating some of the code, and modularizing it a little bit more would have been nice. Maybe using the get Twitter user info and the get Twitter account, get Twitter timeline functions here, and using those, or creating an NS object of the two and just passing in the proper variables needed would have been nice to have done, and I did attempt that, but there was just too many things that relied upon the information in these to be in the actual account. One such as the updating the table here with the dispatch sync. Now I tried using the view did appear method and then updating table that way, and then I tried using the updating the table in different positions, and that didn't work. Really, the only way was to actually have that happen in the background also with the with some of the implementation of the actual variables there. So yeah, that's my application here, and thanks for watching if you did.